beautiful day for another weekly Q&A session. And if you're wondering what this is, it is a similar setup to the weekly live streams, except of course, instead of being live, it is pre-recorded and we're going to be fielding questions here from both Discord and the YouTube member section. You can actually contribute for free in the Discord section, which I can show you how to get there in just a moment. There's a link in the description below, by the way, for the Discord section. And then you just need to find your way over to the weekly Q&A and find the most recent week. If you can do that, you can participate. If you can't, then you probably have bigger issues in participating in one of these, which is all good. I also have my own issues as well. So we are not that much different. Anyways, into Bitcoin. Let's do a very, very quick analysis on Bitcoin here. I'll save the specifics for tomorrow on a more dedicated video, but we do have the new monthly open for June, and a couple things seem really likely to me here. One, Bitcoin. I don't know if this happens early on in the month or later on in the month, but I will talk about implications in a moment. But Bitcoin at some point during June, I do believe we'll see at somewhere a little bit below $100,000. Let's call it between about 97.5 to maybe 99,000 or so. And if Bitcoin is bullish, we would expect that to happen early on within the month between day number 7 and day number 14 of June. And then for Bitcoin to very specifically rally before the end of the month back above about 104,000 US dollars, preferably to just new all-time highs from there. But we can see that the new stochastic momentum pivot is moving up. It's moving up to 103,750. I'm just going to call it 104 as long as Bitcoin's above there. Yeah, favor the boo laws. Bitcoin below there, don't favor the boo laws. So ultimately, if I'm looking at Bitcoin here and I'm describing like the ideal case for the boo laws, it would be short-term pullback, a little bit below $100,000 is fair game. And then, sometime around the third week of June, rally back up above $104,000 and stay above there before end of month. If you see something like that, this thing is going to go for some crazy targets, I actually think. If you don't see that by the end of the month, then we have a different scenario going on. Anyways, let's now get into the YouTube member section over here. And I can see that ETHBTC is first, and she has a nice heart emoticon. I appreciate that. I heart you as well. But feel free to have a message too. All good. Anyways, we got Crypto Rect RD next. He says, Sir Crown, what's up? What's up, ma'am? With potential retracement of Bitcoin between 101 to 90, it's like you read my mind. Can you please provide potential retracement levels for Tau, FARTDRP, Hype, and Virtual? All right, I'll try my best. Some of these, it might not be just a pullback. It might be back to zero, but we'll see. We should probably look at them first. Tau here, I mean, you kind of have a monthly higher low. So there is that. Not much of a chart here. I guess I'd treat this one as okay, as long as you're above yesterday's low, that being Saturday's low. Now, if it does pull back, in the short term, 405 is a very obvious answer. If Bitcoin pulls back to let's say 99 or 98, do I see this one holding here? Probably not. Have to assume that this thing comes back down to like 350, around 350, if that were to happen. But I do think you will at least get some down around here. But this one, I mean, in the short term, you got a bullish engulfing dildo. You're back above all major moving averages. It's not. I don't hate it. Can't really love it as long as you're below the last price action pivot at 458. By the way, I completely forgot to mention, but we did just start a very stealth portion of the sale, which actually the price action pivots and even the quantum wave band is going to be a part of. I won't make official announcements until tomorrow, but for the early birds, the true TA nerds who tune in on a Sunday and hang out with me, well, yeah, it's there for you. And the code is SUMMER20, summer in all capitals, and then literally just the number is 20. So yeah, it is available as of right now. Anyways, let's move on to the next one. We have FARTCOIN. FARTCOIN I actually have on my list. So again, assuming that this one looks a lot more likely to pull back with Bitcoin, just kind of eyeing it out here. If Bitcoin were somewhere down around 98, let's say, I'd expect FARTCOIN somewhere between 75 to 80 cents or so. I do think a lot of these things probably try some short-term rallies first. I'm only answering the hypothetical here. I'm not saying I think it comes down first or anything like that. You're looking at Hype. Yeah, I have this one on my list too. And yes, it's right there. Where did this one come down to? Somewhere right around $25, $26, I'd imagine. Virtual. This one, I feel like I've seen it recently, but I don't remember it. Probably somewhere around 1.5 to maybe as low as 1.25, if that were to happen. Yeah, something like that. So hopefully that was helpful, ma'am. Arms Private says, BNBUSD, please, how likely are we to test 850 in the coming month or we go down? Well, I'll just consult my my crystal ball as always and figure out the answer. Sometimes my crystal ball works, sometimes it don't. Anyways, your question is basically, does this thing make new all-time highs? Or wait, what was the exact question? How likely are we to test 850 in the coming month? I mean, I think at least in June, you're likely to come down to 640 first. And then, I mean, shit, man, like I'd want to see an actual breakout before talking about new all-time highs. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I'm saying? I need to see like a weekly close above 720. And then I guess 850 is, I don't really think 850 like matters as a number, to be honest. I think if you break above there, you're probably headed towards 1,000. But yeah. Anyways, Banksy Rules says, hey, Crown, thoughts on stock HOOH and bonk? HOOH. What's this? It's not a stock. That's not a stonk. Maybe you meant hood. Well, it looks like I can't look at that one at least, but bonk. All right. Bonk derp. Okay. Well, this one's definitely going to be good as usual. Yeah. I mean, better than most shit coins for over the past few years, but you know, this one already selling off here. It's like monthly close below. Did it close below both major moving averages? No, not below the 21. But yeah, I think short term, might try a rally towards 17,700 or so. Maybe even retest May's open. But I think that this thing wants to come down, man. Back down towards the open of April, probably over the long period of time. Yeah, not a great chart. Bearish as long as you're below the May highs, for sure. Also, which chart is more promising, AAVE or Ray? Let's see if we can do this. This will be, yeah, okay, nice. Definitely Ray. Yeah, have to favor Ray on this one. The denominator here, I mean, this thing, is long-term bearish. You're going to get your rallies, but yeah. I ain't saying I like it versus the US dollar, by the way. Just saying, if I have to make a choice between those two, I'd rather lose money slower with Ray than faster with AAVE. No problem, Banksy. Is that, by the way, your dog? It's a very, very cute dog. Base 4267 says, oh, Chipotle. Fuck yeah, man. CMG. I used to spend pretty much all of my money there. I used to go there like every day. And what was the exact question? I love the company. I'm looking for an entry. Will this 49 support range hold or new lows incoming? Kind of a weird monthly close, honestly. If it does take another step down, I think $40 or so makes about sense. 40 to 41. You got pretty close there in April, obviously. Looking for something obvious here, though. Has this one already bottomed? I would not say that this one's already bottomed until you're back above about $53.5 on a daily closing basis. And even then, I mean, you still got, as long as you're below the daily 200 simple, it's like, if this is a long-term investment, I mean, sure, like, I don't mind buying stuff that's, 15, 20% down from the highs if it's a very, very long-term investment. But I think your current move is still very much in limbo. I mean, May was a very bizarre month for this thing. If I have to bet on it, I am going to bet to the downside, but ultimately this is one major consolidation. So, if it popped up to like 56, 57, that's fine. Maybe comes down later, to low 40s again. I don't know if that's worth it for you, to wait. I don't know your sort of investment horizons on this, or if you just look, it sounds like it's probably more of a long-term thing, but, in that case, like if I was in that position, I would actually nibble a little bit here, not because I think it's a low, just because, I'd want at least a starter position. If I'm wrong, I would also go into a position, if this thing does break back above about 56, and I'd also DCA into a long-term position, again, very long-term position, if this thing came down to very low 40s. So yeah, that's kind of how I'd set it up. Don't need to be perfect with these sort of things, of course. All right, let's get down to business. I'm gonna give myself a green dildo over here. Yeah, let's go over the Discord community now. I think that was it from YouTube. Yes, indeed it was. By the way, YouTube members, as always, do get priority here. And then we'll get through as many as we can within about an hour. So I got Hamia first. He says, GM, Crown and Elsa, please look at others on the daily, weekly, and monthly. I actually have a new chart for representing most things, and I think that you might find it interesting, but I'll look at this one first. Anyways, others, you know, the monthly actually does potentially have something really nice going on here. You know, you do have, I'll put it on line chart. You do have a higher low. You got same highs. So is it wedging itself into some sort of an ascending triangle? Definitely possible. But when I go to the weekly, I don't think so. When I go to the weekly, I think it's coming back down to like 212. I don't think it's going to break really to like new lows below April lows, to be honest. But yeah, you know, I do think that it does head down. And take care, Mr. Ben's chair. We have one of our community members is an ICO nurse, ICU nurse, and he's like, gotta go do the job, you know. I wish you were my nurse, ma'am. At least you'd have something interesting to talk about. But yeah, anyways, you know, do I think it comes down a little bit here first, and then if it's going to reverse, you know, then you get it from there? Probably, yeah. Yeah, I'd be a lot more biased towards that, to be honest. Quarterly, not terrible, but not great. It's just, I wouldn't necessarily be like bearish on it for new lows. I just think short term down, and then we'll see what the bounce is like after that. If the bounce reclaims the May highs, that's actually extremely bullish. So there is that. Anyways, Mr. Van Duysen, hi, Melone. Yes, I get the reference, sir. Speak, friend, and enter. Have you checked out Lord of the Rings Dawnless Days? It's actually not new at all, man. They've been working on that one for many, many years, and I was playing that one back in like 2020 or 2021. I haven't looked at it recently, but I'm trying. But I'm trying to reduce my time sinks right now, and Total War is the easiest way to get me to spend all day at a computer. To be honest, man. There's also another Lord of the Rings mod coming out for Bannerlord, which I think is just like, I'm just going to quit life for a couple months after that and just do that. This channel probably ends when that happens. Mr. Rect 101 says, GM Crown and Elsa, what are your thoughts on a real upcoming recession? Oh, I have no idea, man. Like this is a question for a real economist. And notoriously, they are just absolutely terrible at predicting these things as well. I mean, you know, how long was the looming recession of 2022 going on before people capitulated on that idea? I mean, shit, some people still haven't capitulated on that idea. But if you're asking just sort of like tactical things that I'd be thinking for a real recession, well, what typically happens in a real recession? Well, you typically get deflation. So I'd want to get assets that are good in a deflationary environment. So what would that be? Well, that would actually be cash, I guess, but who knows how much things inflate before then. So it's really hard to kind of plan for something like that. Honestly, I don't really have a good answer for you. I really don't. You know, your real hedge is going to be like food, water, defensive capabilities if needed. Yeah, man. Like I said, I'm not the best person to ask for that. So yeah. And the thing is, if a real recession does come, they'll just change the definition of it. You know, no recessions are allowed anyways, right? Like that's what happened last time in 2022. There was 2 quarters of negative growth. That's the way that a recession has been calculated for all of the prior history that we have, at least in the US. And they just said, that's not a recession. It's a herpity derp. It's just a different thing. So yeah, man. Myth Reindeer says, good day, sir. Thoughts on FETUSD daily, weekly for the next couple months? Let's check it out. It's another AI token. Yes, my tokens. Corrective for the short term, as long as you're below $1, basically the daily 200 simple. You know, kind of like the other ones, I do think this one's more likely to have a short-term downside move, relatively speaking, in the next month and a half to 2 months, you know, maybe back down to like 50 cents, but I don't think it's going to make new lows, actually. You know, it does have a general uptrend here, so you got to respect that, but, you know, could it look something like this, you know, blah, 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 blah. Okay, puts in a higher low and then works its way up again and puts in another one of these continuations of trends. I think it's possible. We shall see. But yeah, either which way, I think that one does come down first, and that can take another month or two. Assuming it even bounces there, to be fair. What's up, Mr. Pesto? I see you in both places now. Beautiful, ma'am. Take round. Two things I've seen getting thrown around the crypto sphere a lot. Market makers and what they do. Tons of people still think market makers move price, hunt stops. As a retired market maker, can you please clarify? I should first clarify that because like some people would be like, hey, that's not a crypto market maker. I was an equity options market maker, meaning that I made markets in options for stocks, basically. So the way that we did things is we gave zero fucks at all about direction. All we cared about was, and what every market maker that I've ever met cared about, is plain delta neutral strategies. What does delta neutral mean? It means that you have no directional risk on your positions. Why? Because what are market makers doing? They are quite literally putting in the orders that you see in the order book that people can get filled on. In fact, you can put in an order there. It's called a limit order, and you are essentially a maker for the market. Like quite literally, that's why it's called a maker order. In the same way that you're a market maker. It's just market makers, do this automated, and they're basically looking to pull in any sort of arbitrage that is possible. That just means a difference in price between one asset and on one exchange versus another asset, versus that same asset on a different exchange. So, for example, if I can buy Bitcoin on Coinbase for $100,000, and then on Bitstamp it's trading for like $101,000. Again, this wouldn't really happen, but you get the idea with an exaggeration. Then I can buy it on Coinbase, sell it on Bitstamp, and I pull in the difference, and it's boom, done exactly right there. I have no risk, and I get to pull in that profit immediately. So that's what market makers are generally doing. I think people probably get confused because of the name market maker. It kind of implies that they're literally making the markets. I mean, they are literally making the markets, but they are not, they're not like making the price move, because you have to understand what makes the price move. By fucking definition, it's actually not market makers with their limit orders. It's market orders, which typically comes from crypto degens, who just press the fucking green button, expect to be in a position immediately. There's a reason you pay an extra fee for that. And again, that also it used to be that market makers actually got paid, to make markets, but yeah, it's not that way anymore. Anyways, I just realized the little chat box was there, kind of covering things up. Anyways, yes, back on a topic here. Second thing is price gaps. I've seen people focus on the daily gaps and disregard lower timeframes, while others look for gaps on the 4 hour and lower. Would you consider anything lower than a daily timeframe as a valid gap? In traditional markets, yes, you could. Being a valid gap as in you expect a reaction if price comes back down to there, but it might not be like a tremendous reaction. I think where people really get it wrong is that they see a gap and they think, okay, there was a gap created from yesterday night's from Friday's close to Monday's open. Thus, Bitcoin must come back exactly to that gap on Monday, even early on Monday, and then go the other direction. That is bullshit. That is 100% bullshit. And that's very easily evident by anyone who's actually looked at, a CME chart for Bitcoin. There can be gaps that, yes, they get filled, but maybe it takes a few months. Let's give an example here. Yeah, big fucking gap right here, right? From July of 2021. If you would have shorted right after that thinking, duh, gap, okay, going down, well, at some point you would have been right, like a year later. But when does it actually get filled? It gets filled in January of 2022. So we're talking about basically 6 months of being, well, most likely liquidated if you did this on leverage, which you have to because it would be a short trade. So, anyways, can you see gaps on lower timeframes? Yeah, I think in traditional markets that can work. But I think if you want the best ones, you're going to be looking for a daily, generally. What evidence do you have that Binance trades against their own customers? And why would they trade against their own customers if their customers trading is what makes them money as a business? I'm sorry that this is a rhetorical question, but how could you possibly not understand that? I'm sorry, but really, think about it. You're going to sell a product that basically kills your customers, and then you're going to somehow make a business out of it. Like, I guess it works for cigarettes, but you know, they also get to live for like fucking, you know, 56 years before they get some sort of cancer, most likely. So yeah, it's a different story, I guess. Anyways, yes. Okay, cool. Tristram says, GM, Zur, and Zuret. GM to you as well, sir. CMO Johnson says, how now, Brown Crown? I don't know. Thoughts on NVIDIA, please. Should we still be bearish? Let's see. I think this one did have a pretty nice downside move. Is there more on top of it? That's a good question. Where is my NVIDIA? I know I have it on my list. Yes, there we go. Let's see what the monthly closed like. Okay. Yeah, April did come down significantly. This was a circle that I marked off as like a target for this rally. It pretty much closed right, like the closing price was pretty much perfectly within it. And if you are actually going to be bearish on this, this would be the perfect area for this thing to come in for. That's why I circled it right there. Oh, Jesus. That's what makes this difficult. I'm sure the pattern bro is going to say, hey, this is a head and shoulders. And I actually don't have an argument for why that wouldn't be true. So I guess it is true. But it's not really actionable in my opinion, you know, as long as you're above like 115. But yeah, there's definitely a bearish setup here for sure, especially as long as you're below last week's high. Now, above last week's high, I think that this thing just runs to new highs, honestly. But as long as you're kind of stuck within this position right here on a closing basis, you know, I think most markets are going to be coming down early in June. If this thing really starts to violate below like 115, I think that's going to be then. I mean, the top callers will have a very, very good argument for this one. But for right now, you know, should pull back to open up this month. Just don't want to see it really below 115 on especially like a weekly closing basis. Something like that, man. Anyways, yes, Dunning-Kruger effect says, hi, Mr. Crown. What's up, man? Great time to be alive. Fuck yeah, dude. It's the best time to be alive. When you study history, you realize that very, very quickly. Although there are some other cool times as well, that's for sure. All right, we'll take another sip of this water, then we'll get to the next one. Wazzy Boy says, hey, Crown, as a trader, how can one psychologically handle the burden of nominal value on their losses? Oh, progressive desensitization. Like very, very, I've thought a lot about this, but the way to do it, and this is actually the way that like psychologists work on people who have like, you know, irrational fears of things, is that you progressively desensitize yourself towards it. So what does that mean? It means that you start off first with an amount of money that you are trading that when you take losses, you don't feel nothing. Like, you know, you lose $10, for example, you're like, all right, doesn't matter. Okay. If you don't feel it, then you can size up, you know, assuming everything else is in place. Like you have a real strategy, you have like an edge on your side, blah, 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 blah. All of these other things I'm assuming are in place. Okay. From there, yeah, it's just sizing up progressively until you do feel something, then go back down a little bit, and continue that process until you don't feel nothing. And then you can move things up. I think 5% in terms of position size is about right, because you'll be able to, you know, progress. Well, you'll be able to desensitize yourself and thus progress faster with that. Anyways, you say, recently I've realized a 15% loss in my portfolio, which is not fatal, but the nominal value of the amount is multiple year salaries. This bothers me a lot as I feel like I'm irresponsible and could have helped so many people around me with that money, or even buy something for myself. I live a very modest life, and nominal value of potential drawdowns bothers me a lot. Or in other words, to say I am not okay to handle a 50% loss, but can't handle to lose amount. Yeah, I mean, the most obvious answer here is that, look, if a 15% loss in your portfolio, you know, really, really jars you to the point where you don't think that it's worth it for you, then I don't think that you should be doing it, man. I don't think that you should be doing it. You know, that's really what it comes down to. It's like, you should be asking yourself, do I really want to be trading? Because it just might not be a good fit at that point, right? You know, you can always just hodl, and that's fine. I think that's probably the best thing for most people to do. Like that. To be quite frank with you, man, the most money I've made is just from hodling like very, very long-term positions. I mean, it's hard to out trade an asset that goes up, you know, 10x in a few years, right? Like, good luck. Now, in Bitcoin land, we are spoiled because you can trade inverse perp, so you get to actually hold it and trade. So you get basically a synergistic effect, and it can be like massively multiplied, right? But so as far as a 15% loss in your portfolio, it's decent, yes, but that's not going to kill you. So it really comes down to, do you want to do that? If you do, then the answer is progressive desensitization with your position sizing. And if you don't want to do that, then the answer is very easy. It's just you just don't do it. You just stop. You either hold and stop trading, or you get out of markets completely. But you have risks no matter what you're going to do anyways. Like if you just hold, if you hold no assets and just hold cash, well, you're going to lose somewhere between like 2 to 4% of your purchasing power every year. If you hold, S&P or just like major indices, you're probably going to be gaining on average somewhere around like 8 to 10% a year. So, that's kind of the way that I look at it. It's like, that is a spectrum of like what I'm trying to avoid and also beat. So yeah. Anyways, No Mud, No Lotus says, hey bro, do you use the HPDRV? For anyone who doesn't know, that's the HPDR volatility indicator over the BBWP. I like the HPDRV, but it seems you reference the BBWP more in videos. Just curious if there's a specific reason, or you show it as a free indicator. Yeah, I like to use the free versions of indicators on videos, unless if they're like super, user friendly, like the RSI here, like the price action pivots, these sort of things. But let me just bring it up right here. The HPDR volatility, that's what the V stands for, is based off of the HPDR itself. It's like the engine that those calculations are derived from. And in my experience, okay, I should first say that the HPDRV, in theory, it actually makes more sense that it should be more accurate. It should be more accurate. But I don't know if it's just my way of looking at things or if I'm redacted or something, but I find that the BBWP is really fucking good at what it does, better than pretty much any other indicator I've seen for volatility, paid or not paid. And that's really what it comes down to. It's a great creation by the Caretaker. It's a fucking great one. Phenomenal. And it's like such an obvious thing too, that I'm just so surprised no one else thought of. But Caretaker's, he's just that guy. He's that fucking guy. So yeah, I use it, one, because yes, it is free and others can follow along. And two, I actually genuinely think it's better. Like I said, in theory, HPDRV should be more accurate, but BBWP is more actionable. It's more, I just understand it better, maybe, I guess. Something like that. Anyways, Cloud says, GM Crown, as someone who hasn't blown up their account yet, that prospect seems very scary. It is. And that's why it's so powerful, because it's so fucking scary. Anything that has the potential to really fucking terrify you has also the potential to change you as a person. Yet when I hear successful traders talk about their career, often they have a story or two about blowing up accounts or massive drawdown. I think everyone I've met who's been a successful trader for more than 10 years has at least one story of that. Yeah. Is this some sort of a rite of passage? I think it's exactly that. Because we don't have rites of passages in today's society, or at least, in the Western world. I guess like some people look at college or university as a rite of passage, but it's not really, right? Like, it's not that fucking hard, and you're not like scared for your life there, or at least, you're probably not. I mean, maybe you are. In which sense, well, you're gonna want to figure out something else, I guess. But yeah, in the Western world, we don't really have rites of passages in the way that humanity has had for most of history. So our built-in psychological processes kind of demand that we in some way experience one of these rites of passages. And a rite of passage basically is undertaking an event that scares you to fucking death, because there's a real possibility and probability of failure. It's not a guarantee. It's not anything like this. Like, you might fucking die. You might destroy, a portion of your life. You might, lose something that is very, 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 very important to you. Something like this, a part of your identity, basically. It reshapes your identity. So it's possible that you've gone through a rite of passage in a different vein. And because you've gone through a rite of passage in a different vein, maybe you've done like boxing or something, which is also very scary for your first match, of course, or something similar. And if you've gone through that and you have internalized the lesson from going through a rite of passage and emerging out on the other side victorious or just, not being dead, then you probably internalized the lesson that people are internalizing when they blow up their accounts, which is, look, you're responsible for everything in your life. You're responsible for every last little decision, every last little facet, even if it's not technically your fault, you're responsible for your response anyways. That's why it's called responsibility. It's literally your ability to respond. So what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that, yes, it is a rite of passage, but you don't necessarily need to blow up your account to get the knowledge that is required, or that is a consequence of going through that rite of passage. You could have gone through it in a different vein and gotten that knowledge there. And it's also possible, and in many cases as well, some people go through an event like that and they don't learn the lesson. They don't internalize, the gold basically that the dragon is hoarding, and well, they go through another rite of passage, I guess, until they get it right. So yeah, man. Anyways, K3 says Twitter Live sucks. Yeah, man, it's not the best, but it's just a good little hangout for us. These aren't supposed to be like super crazy, live streams or anything like that. Rect 101, what's up, man? Actually, just saw your comment on the thread here earlier. Happy Sunday to you as well, sir. All right. Nuke the Black Cube. I really like questions like this, by the way. They're really fun to think about. Anyways, Nuke the Black Cubes says, GM, stay humble and stack sats. Fair enough. It's a valid proposition, sir. Mr. Crown, would you kindly have a look at DSync? DSync. Sure. Oops. Let's go to this chart. All right. Destra. Very bad. Yeah, very bad, man. Another one of these shitcoins that just, gets its one-off pop and then done pretty much for forever after that. I don't think that this thing's going to be any different, to be honest. Weekly, I mean, if it closes anywhere below last week's open, that's just going to look ugly. And, does this thing retest your April lows? Probably. Think about it this way, man. Like most things, the strong things rallied up big time in May. This thing did not. This thing is more or less closer to its April lows than it is its all-time, or certainly than its all-time highs. But yeah, heavily bearish as long as you're below the most recent price action pivot, which is 18.5 or so. So yeah, you're in a long scalp at 14 cents. You're targeting 27 cents and 54 cents. Better luck playing the lottery, man. Yeah, I can't say that I can't say that I'd take that same position. I'll put it that way. Toba says, GM Crown, I hope you're feeling nice and hydrated. I actually am, in fact. Looking at stock CEP, upside targets and downside invalidation of price action. Need to sell my CEP stock sometimes within the next 6 months. Okay, well, actually do have this one on my list as well. Actually, let's go to this chart. Yes, CEP, where do I have it? Yes. So this is, what's his name? Lutnick's son. This is his stonk. Anyways, let me go back to the question. What exactly was it? Upside targets and downside invalidation of this. Well, for the current price action, your downside invalidation for bullishness is very clearly this low from the 12th of May at 27.85. As long as you're above there on a daily closing basis, your uptrend remains intact and upside is more likely. Does a weekly make me think maybe that doesn't necessarily happen? Perhaps yes, but look, if you come back down what is effectively below the May lows, I would say this thing is going to be headed much lower first before any sort of potential upside targets are hit. As far as upside targets, man, there's no real upside targets for me to make on something like this. Way too new. And this is just like a one-off pump so far over here. So, you know, I'm always a little bit guarded against these sort of situations. There's not like a major consolidation yet in place, although it does seem to be unfolding here. So I can't really judge any sort of potential targets based off of that. Like just eyeballing it, I don't know, 80, 90, $100, if it does have continuation, but I'd give it some time to trade sideways here for a while, set in a base and a range, and then maybe try higher. So yeah, needs time, man. Needs some time. And thank you for that, Capitalista. Actually, I'll read this one really quick on Twitter here. Ace the Mad says, I started the bull in November with 130,000, ran it up to 289,000. Very nice. And so you doubled it. Very nice. And back down to 164,000. All right, so you're still up, although you did give a lot back. Took a break the last week to reset my mindset. At least I'm now down, but looking at you're not down, man. I think that's what you meant there. But looking at positions I could be in if I played things. Oh, dude, you're always going to do that. You're going to fucking torture yourself with that sort of a mindset, man. Believe me, that is an endless pit. You can always hindsight things and just fucking torture yourself with it. Like it's gonna torture you. It's gonna make you do dumb things in the present. Like you just got to forget it, man. I know it's easier said than done, but really. Anyways, Mario Super says, don't know if it's fine to answer. Okay. All right. He's just giving his answer. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Michael Bolden says, lol, I'll make mine a bit shorter. Morning, appreciate you. Thanks, man. Wondering about using the quantum wave bands. Should I have all three strategies on one chart? Absolutely fucking not, man. What the hell? Didn't you read the damn directions? Quantum wave bands are amazing. Kind of a redacted question, I realize, but I mainly trade manually on my phone. Okay, if you trade manually and you're not using the automation features, I mean, you could do that. No, you need different charts, because if you're using it all in the same chart, like how can you tell which strategy is open and which one's closing, or which new one's open? It's just going to be too fucking confusing, man. Just create new layouts for each strategy, set alerts for them, and you can take action on that. That makes the most sense. Also, just wondering if you get a bit complacent now that you've been successful. I think for a while after my first initial success, yeah. And then I realized that once once I don't have money problems, then it's my responsibility to create positive problems for myself. So like that's one of the reasons why I continue to do YouTube, for example. I mean, it's a never-ending issue. Like price action is unfolding each and every day. You can never be perfect at it. You'll never get everything right. And so it's always like a puzzle that just is constantly morphing, never ends, and is engaging for life. Or at least that's the way that I look at it. I don't know. Maybe I'm fucking, crazy myself. Probably yes. But yeah, man, use different layouts on your charts. Like otherwise you're just not going to know which one you're looking at. And also understand you don't need to trade all three different strategies at the same time. In fact, I personally would never do that. I would choose one and just stick with that. I think the hourly strategy is like really fucking good, by the way, but that's just me. That's just my preference there. So, if you want to trade all three, go for it. But I would split them up, man, just because you're just going to get jumbled up. And also I would split them up on different accounts too, to be honest. Crypto Muzz says, hey, Crown, appreciate work. Thanks, man. In reference to the 5 EMA strategy you speak of on this 5-day chart, can the 5 EMA strategy also be used on the daily? We can actually test that out super quickly. Let's see. I'm going to assume it probably works as like a template, but it might not be like, optimized. So here's what it looks like on the 5-day. Now let's go down to the daily. Daily is not bad, but this thing's been more or less trading sideways with minimal gains in the past. I'm guessing this is like the past 5 years here. So it's definitely not optimized for this time frame. I imagine if you tweak the settings a bit, you could probably get a pretty good daily setup. But yeah, right out of the box, I wouldn't trade that, man. Like the 5-day by comparison, it consistently, trades sideways before big legs up on that equity curve. So yeah. Yeah, fair enough. In your opinion, which time frame would have better risk reward? I mean, the 5 days, the one that one's, I mean, it's barely even optimized to begin with, to be honest, but Depends what you're looking for, man. Daily, you're going to have, I mean, well, yeah, they're not comparable because we don't really have like a specified daily one. You need to really like optimize a daily one, and then you can answer that question with like actual hard facts and data. And can it be used on downside price action? You can, but you're trying to squeeze water from a rock. I was trying to explain this to someone the other day in the Quantum Wave Band Discord who was asking about, hey, when are we going to do short strategies for quantum wave bands? I'm like, dude, you don't fucking want that, man. Like this whole weird romanticized idea of like trading every fucking move in the market is just, it's retarded and it's dumb, and you're going to end up losing a lot more money than that. What you want to do is you want to specialize in one thing. You only need to specialize in one thing, honestly, and fuck everything else and just make as much money as you can doing that one thing rather than trying to be a fucking jack of all trades and master of none. Because in trading, you need to be a master. You need to be a master of one and forget all the fucking rest. At least that's my opinion, man. So it's like, look, you can squeeze water from a rock on an asset that goes up, generally significant amounts, that has significant volatility, and try to find those good short trades. They will happen for sure, but you don't need to. Like, you're trying to play the game. You're trying to play the game on Dark Souls mode, and all you need is like Hello Kitty, My Pony World difficulty. And you still can make the same. I mean, in fact, the Hello Kitty game has more. I mean, it has a lot more potential if we're relating that to the upside potential, especially for something like Bitcoin. For something that generally goes to the downside, you can flip that statement on its face. But we're talking about Bitcoin here. This one generally goes up and to the right. If you're choosing like some random shitcoin, then yeah, you probably could make that work really, really well. But again, you're just trading with the general long-term trend at that point. Mike says, hello, sir. Have you met Michael Burry or any cool big name traders? Okay, like big names. I mean, I was around some of these guys when I was in Chicago. I remember one time I was walking back to the office, and the guy who I was walking with, stops for a second. He points out another guy who was also around there, and he's like, "That guy's a billionaire." And I think he said, I think he said it was Jamie Dimon. I honestly didn't even really know who Jamie Dimon was at the time. There was this one guy. Yeah, that's all that I can really think of, like big fucking names. Other than that, I mean, of course, I know a lot of the guys who were like on the floor, but I don't know. I don't think they're public people really. So yeah. Mr. Brosh says, how did you and Caretaker meet? Caretaker just like, he joined this community pretty early on, and I don't know, he just immediately stood out to me as like a really solid guy, extremely dependable. Like, you do not understand. People do not understand. Caretaker is probably the most value-driven person I have met. Like, if he believes something, he will say it. He will say it even when it's a difficult thing to say. And he and he really goes deep with a lot of things. Like, this guy is, dare I say, probably one of the best people in my life, even though we've literally never met in person, like not even fucking once. But he's always been dependable. He's always been a great friend. He's always been a phenomenal coder. I mean, this guy's finally getting recognized on TradingView as like one of the premier coders there. And he's just fucking legit. Like, this guy, when he says something, you can 100% believe that he believes it. It might not be correct in some cases, but he definitely is giving you his opinion. He's not sugarcoating nothing. And like, whenever I'm dealing with something and I need like an extra opinion, or I just want someone to really give it to me raw, sounds wrong, but you know what I mean. I send it to, I'm like, hey, Caretaker, I need your opinion on this, man. I really do, because you're that guy. I can trust that you will give me an honest opinion about this. So yeah. Yeah. All right. Qster says, hello, sir. If you could please take a look at MOGUSD on the 4-hour daily. Sure, man. Back to the shitcoins, huh? Another one that's very uninteresting to me. Does it bounce here first? Probably yes. Who knows? Doesn't really matter, I don't think. If it does, maybe back around like 10,000, 11,000-ish region. Do I think the daily will break down more over time? Probably yes. Probably back down around here. Here's your weekly. I mean, the weekly, assuming today closes below all major moving averages, which would require below about 9,500, then I mean, I think that this thing is going to be retesting March, April lows at some point. Maybe not this month. Maybe it takes a couple months, but yeah. Again, that's pending today's weekly closure. So if it closed below there, I think that that's a rather easy call. And to get bullish on this thing is like super simple. Trade back above the May highs. This thing's bullish as fuck. It's going to 2x from there or something. But until then, the trend is your friend. And the trend is down. Anyways, Love Woods, what's up, man? Good as always to see you. You're looking at SPY futures 4-hour. Got it, man. Always the lower term time frames on SPY, but it's actually pretty fun to look at for traditional markets. I was actually expecting traditional markets to kind of close not as good as this, looking at what happened on Friday. I know you didn't ask about these higher timeframes, but I do need to get a better look on things. Generally, I think there is going to be a pullback in June. Does it happen at the beginning of June or later on in June? Fuck, that's the $1 million question. If it does happen in the early portion of June, looking somewhere down around like 20,900 or so, solidify this as a range low, basically. If I'm looking at the very short term for the 4-hour, do I think it tries a short term rally from here to like 2150 or 21,500? Maybe yes. But overall, I think at some point in this month, the high probability move is that you will be coming down. Like I said, like 20,000, what was it? 20,900? 20,900 to 20,700, somewhere in that pocket. That's like the obvious trade. Should be a bounce at least on first pass. Does that bounce, pop back above the May highs? I don't fucking know, but something like this maybe, or hopefully not this one because that LARP line is going down a lot. But it would still be a higher low, to be fair. I mean, that's the problem when you go up 7 straight weeks in a row, is that you can afford some downside. Anyways. Moving on. Cookie Munster. Let me check on time. Oh, damn. Oh my God. I am nowhere near the bottom of these comments for today. We're definitely not getting through everyone. Cookie Munster says, hello, Mr. Crown and Miss Elsa. Thank you for your daily videos. I love them since Elliot mentioned your channel in 2020. Hell yeah, man. Love Elliot. Now they are part of my daily routine on workdays. Fuck yeah, one of us. Could you take a look at Tau? Didn't we look at that one earlier? Pretty sure we looked at this one earlier. And you's looking at a daily and a weekly. Yeah, this one did look a little bit different. Look, if it comes back down below Saturday's low, okay, obviously very bearish. This thing's going to come back down to like 325, maybe even 300 soon after that. But until that happens, this thing's actually in an objectively different position than most other things we've seen today. 5-day, still holding it above all major moving averages. The monthly, I mean, sure, there's probably a pullback to 400, but if it bounces strongly there and it reclaims the May highs, I think that this thing could actually go on for a really nice run towards 600, maybe even $700. But one thing before the next, because, this thing is doing something different, which always makes me skeptical because, well, mostly everything does the same thing in this market. So yeah. But again, big pivot on that May 31st low at 366.5. Below there, very bad. All right. Max says, hey Crown, quick question regarding RSI divergence. In your stream on Monday, you highlighted hidden bullish divergence on the daily chart from the local low on April 27th however, I'm curious why hidden bullish divergence wasn't present from the local low on May 18th. Okay, let me look at my chart here first so we can be on the exact same page. Okay, let's mark this up. Okay, April 27. Okay, April 27 is where? I'll mark this one off. Actually, let me get rid of all these things. April 27. Okay, yeah. Lowish right around here. I'm guessing you're running off of this. Well, the RSI over here was already lower. Hold on. Let me read through the rest of this. However, I'm curious why similar hidden bullish divergence wasn't present from the local low on May 18th. Oh, it was. Wait. The low of May... okay, so the low of May 18th was over here. It could have been, but the problem is that it's not even there now. So there's that. You can see that this drive over here was populating. Maybe, this anchor over here was being pulled over here. But as you can see, I mean, that didn't work out. So yeah, maybe I'm not looking at the exact right same thing as you, but yeah, you could have easily said that. Yeah, both of these points work. It's just this point from Caretaker's RSI was not getting identified as a local low. So, or let me just double check. Yeah, it wasn't getting identified as a local low, so it's not going to draw an anchor right there. But you know, theoretically, you'd be right if a low was printed there. So yeah. All right. Let's see. Texas SIGEP, what's up, man? Which should moon the hardest? Do I have to do all of these, man? I can't do all of these, man. It's going to take too long. We're already so fucking deep in here. I'll look at the only one that we haven't looked on this stream yet, which is Ondo. I've already looked at all the other highly esteemed crypto coins, crypto tokens. This one also looks like it wants to come down. I don't know, man. It's like, which one do you want to hold to lose money the slowest? Tau. Probably say Tau. Anyways, yeah, this thing probably wants to come back down to like low 70s as well. Maybe even lower. I mean, shit. Anyways, Prince says, sir, gold on the weekly and monthly, one more leg to 4,000 possible, 5,000 by end of year. I really don't know. I haven't looked at this one as well in like a week. How did it close the month? Okay, unhelpful. I honestly still think that this thing is probably putting in a top here. So I'm not of the same opinion that this thing is going to continue from here, or at least not without like a much more prolonged sideways consolidation, you know, with some downside closer to at least 3,200. But personally, I'd like to see it come down a lot more than that before, you know, I think like a long-term correction is over and, you know, significantly new higher prices are implied. Let's look at the yearly. You know, yearly is good. Like, maybe it does it this year, maybe it does it next year, but is there a correction first? I'd kind of be biased towards that, honestly. Yeah, I mean, this is starting to get quite weak here. So, you know, does it pull back first to like 3,000-ish and then try another move to the upside? I think that's probably how it would look like. But at the same time, like, does that happen within your time frame by end of year? I have no fucking idea, man. No idea. Chev says, GM, sir, CRWV stock 4-hour daily. Okay, this is like the new obsession in stonks, right? 4-hour and daily. Daily, I think you got a nice little top in here for a little bit of time. 4-hour, same thing. You know, I think that this thing probably comes back down below $100. 98. If 98 fails, I'd be looking towards like 80. Come back to it after that. But, you know, this is, yeah, you got some bearish divergence on that high as well. I think that this one's ready for like a real correction after this absolutely epic run. Jim Bob says, hey, Crown, best show of the week. Fuck yeah, man. I hope you enjoy this one. The market seems to love playing with 420. XMR topped at least short term at 420. We all know the connection with Monero and 420. Actually, yes, I do. No kidding. Tesla fucks about with 420. Yep. Twitter celebrated 420 on the way up, and then it rejected 420 from the all-time high. Liquidity at this level makes me think we get a short-term pullback from there to freak out the stoneheads, and we all-time high from there. You're talking about just with Tesla? I really don't know. I actually haven't looked at Tesla since last live stream. I think that this one is in for a short-term correction first to like 320, and then if it's going to try a 420 move, that kind of makes sense. But I actually don't even know if you're talking about Tesla, to be honest. It's not clear, but if it is, then I think, again, short term, you know, maybe like 320, and then if it's going to try another upside move, probably happens from there. But yeah. Naber says, hey, Crown, watching your videos since 2021. Hell yeah, dude. I really appreciate you sharing your view of the market and knowledge every day. I try. Sometimes it's not the right view or the right knowledge, but I can always give you at least a raw, unfiltered opinion. I have a quick question about NESN stonk trading on 6. Okay, is that, wait, what was it? NESN. Is that, oh, 6 is Switzerland. New one for me. I bought the lows in January. I'm not sure if this is really the reversal. Weekly looks like it put in a higher low, but the daily worries me about. Probably shouldn't be too worried about a daily if you're, you know, kind of playing like a multi-month move. So you bought at like 70 low 70s, and it's trading at 87 right now. I think that this one is, I would run with a bullish assumption as long as you're above the most recent price action pivot, which is $85 on a weekly closing basis. That is to say, as long as you're above there on a weekly closing basis, I think you still got higher to go, maybe 95 to as much as 105. But I have to say, man, like such a sharp move down like this, that is really ugly. This thing's been down only since 2022. I don't know what this thing is or what it does, but that's kind of a warning signal to me. If it did pop up to like mid or upper 90s, I think that's a gift from God, to be honest. But yeah, if you're very, very long term, I mean, your buys are in a very, very good region. Like, again, if you're like, 5-10 years out, buying around the monthly 200 simple and you really believe in it, which I don't know about this thing, but if you really believe in it, fine, sure. I mean, that's a textbook decision right there. So I don't hate that, but if it's just for a trade, then I don't know, take some profit here. And if it moves up to 95 or 100, take some more. Calamity says, Top Quant, do the quantum wave bands also work in a bear market, and what is the minimum position size recommended? Quantum wave bands, do they work in a bear market? Well, they will certainly fire off signals in a bear market, if that's what you mean. Will the signal still be good? Well, I mean, this is tested here. Let's go over this test. This goes all the way back to, no, this is not during a bear market. So let's run this back another year and see what it did in 2020 or right before 2022 when the market turned. Let's just start right there. It doesn't really matter. All right. We'll get the data in that date range. Hey, that's not what I said. You fucking bastard. How dare you? Oh, you fucking asshole. Okay. Now we're doing it. So this will be the last 4 years of history here. All right. And let's just see how it did in 2022. Think about it, man. Even in bear markets, there are bounces. So that's kind of what you're playing with the quantum wave bounds during bear markets. But I'd say the trend trading strategies are going to be losers there, most likely. You can see 2022 is probably this area over here. It's like there were gains, sure. Now, do you really want to put up with this? I mean, it's boom and bust basically during a bear market. So it's like you're not really making money. You're not really losing money. You just kind of stay alive, not destroying yourself, and then you're around for the glory times. So, does it work? Yeah. Is it the best strategy in a bear market? No. So yeah, what is the minimum position size recommended? I mean, look, like everyone has different needs, different preferences with these sort of things. It's an impossible question to answer. Someone with, $100 million in net worth is going to have a much different, preference than someone with $1,000 in net worth, for example. Mr. Kwan says, trying to figure out strategies with the HPDRO and HPDRV. I think the teachable on these are a bit outdated. I get the idea, but when I try to backtest it, I'm not finding consistency. Looking to use it for scalping 1 to 4 hour. Can you help explain this in more detail or share new strategies in the HPDRV? Like I said, I don't really like using the HPDRV. I find that the BBWP does the same job, but just better. Again, even though the HPDRV theoretically should be better, should be more accurate at least. HPDRO, try different settings for it. I like I like putting the sample length at 7. It completely depends on how you're going to use it, man. But, I'd put sample lengths 7 for both HPDRO and HPDR bands and see if you can find something there, like a mean reversion strategy with that, like closing above one of the, deeper levels plus HPDRO turning in the opposite direction. It's probably going to be a good, pullback or bounce sort of call. So yeah, Ladies Man 217 says, why is crypto sentiment bad when Bitcoin is above 100,000? I don't necessarily think it's bad, man. Let me see what the coin market derp says. It's neutral today. That is so crazy. How is it neutral when Bitcoin is literally at $104,000? It's absolutely insane. I believe it was greedy for a little bit at the top of this rally when Bitcoin was above 110,000. But if you mean like just general interest in this market, yeah, I really don't know. I can tell you that from my own YouTube statistics that, there's less views in the past month compared to earlier this year. So, You know, what does that mean? I guess less people are just interested, or I don't know, maybe my content just sucks now too. It's also possible. Anyways, Jim Bob says, hey Crown, given that we all knew for certain that James Wynn's liquidation price would be reached, I don't know if we can know anything for certain, but sure. And we've seen it time and time again with high stakes public trading. And we also know that thanks to your guidance, market makers don't play these games. What do you think moves the market in such an orchestrated way? If there's anyone who's actually moving the market, who has the power to move the market, it's these big quant firms, or, you know, even the banks trading desks. Like they can, you know, I think a lot of them are probably involved in crypto at this point too. You know, a big quant firm like does care about direction, and they probably will play a game like that where they see, oh, this fucking idiot's showing his positions out on social media, like, well, we can fish him, like, no problem. Like that can be a strategy for sure. My thinking is just that collectively the big players go after it. Yeah. But also think about it this way too, man. Like the whales, people think that like all whales, you know, accounts with big equity, they just all magically collude with each other without any issue, and everyone disagrees with each other because they live in some sort of, you know, special land where that happens. You know, obviously that's not going to be the case. So the problem is that when you start to say like, hey, it's, you know, it's these whales or it's these guys trying this thing. Well, you don't know who else is a whale out there who is going to counter your counter, and then fuck you. You know, it could be a career-ending decision, you know? So yeah, man. Anyways, I think you kind of come to that conclusion down here anyway. For what it's worth, the big players go after it so they can get their big orders filled. But then what are they doing? Selling spot Bitcoin and shorting to bring price down, and then making way bigger plays on the way back up. Who knows what they're actually doing? It's all speculation. Anything that I'd say, like, these strategies can get very, very sophisticated or not. There's no way for me to know. And there's no way for you to know, and there's no way for anyone to even know, even the people who are doing it, because they don't know who else is doing it against them, right? So it's just one massive clusterfuck. JRSB says, hey, Crown, could you please do MicroStrategy daily, weekly? Sure, ma'am. Yes, MSTR. I think that this one's finally starting to come down. Monthly closed, and hard not to see at least a pullback a little bit further south to like 340-ish region. And then hopefully a bounce there for the Bulaw's sake. If it does not bounce at around 340-ish, that would be very ugly. But have to be expecting at least a bounce on the first pass. Yeah, if we're going down to a daily, does it try a rally first or does it come down first? I'd actually be biased towards a rally first, maybe fill this gap at 400. Weekly. Yeah, I mean, weekly does make me think that things do come down a little bit more. So 340, hopefully a big bounce there and like reclaim, 400. That would be very, very bullish for this thing. If it fails there, then your next obvious area is like 280, but well, that becomes a lot more scary for the long term, I think. Still would be an uptrend, but at least like a very long-term consolidation. All right. Okay. I think we'll do this last one. Because we are actually over an hour right now. Hi, Dr. Crown. Thanks. I actually did study to become a doctor, by the way. I did do pre-med, although I dropped out after that. Thanks for the work you do. Which of these charts has the greatest potential of upside at the moment? Ethereum Bitcoin, Solana Bitcoin, Virtuals Bitcoin. I'm just going to default here to probably Ethereum Bitcoin, honestly. Maybe Virtuals Bitcoin. I know it's definitely not Solana right now. Virtual BTC. Yeah. Actually, this one would be objectively the best one, but that's just because it doesn't have so much history. So it doesn't have the opportunity to look as shitty as possible from, multiple years of just down. But yeah, all of them are going to be bad versus Bitcoin, to be fair. But this one has probably the best chance to actually do something versus Bitcoin. Ethereum Bitcoin, I still think that this one will trade higher at some point in this cycle, but Jesus, even the monthly couldn't close above the 5 EMA. I mean, just fucking fucking insane, dude. It really is fucking insane. Anyways, we're going to end things on that note, guys. It's been a very nice and lovely stream. I appreciate all of the commenters joining in as well. I already posted up a new session for next week. It's right here, just June 1. We already got actually a lot of people chiming in, which is good. And of course, YouTube members get priority over here, which you can find in the post section on YouTube. So yeah, we'll be ending it on that note. As always, I want to wish everyone the best of best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Monday.